Dykes and Harris, Dykes and Ferris, tell me where is sanity? Tax the rich, feed the poor, till there are no rich no more. I'd love to change the world, but I don't know what to do. So I'll leave it up to you. Population keeps on breeding, nation bleeding, still won't beat it. Economy. Life is funny, skies are sunny, bees make honey. Who needs money? Monopoly. I love to change the world, but I don't know what to do. So I'll leave it up to you. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Hey, hey. That was a really, really amazing high fidelity.
Groovy. It was
Yeah,
groovy, bro.
super.
groovy,
Uh,
man.
I am Heidi Kuda, and I'm here with my friends Jim Stewartson and High Fidelity. We do a weekly podcast called Radicalized Truth Survives because we were, when we formed it 4 years ago, we were really counting on truth surviving, and we're still fighting for it. But Thursday nights, we are just belly up to the virtual bar, shooting the shit about news of the day, and also recapping our most recent episode. And we had an incredible interview with the author Jen Stout, who wrote a book called Night Train to Odessa. She always dreamed of being a war correspondent, and she became one. A really cool woman from Scotland. And so I'm looking forward to showing you guys some highlights from that. And I mean, tomorrow, thousands of protests will be occurring throughout the country with millions of people participating. And maybe you guys can give us a quick briefing on that, or start wherever you want.
I'm going to start with this. I'm going to start with those protests are going to be huge tomorrow. There should be a lot of media coverage. I certainly hope there is. We'll see. But it's also an excellent, excellent opportunity for infiltrators to get into those crowds and cause violence, thus giving Trump a reason to claim the Insurrection Act. So watch yourselves out on the streets, people.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing that nonviolent protest is the way to go. We've got people in chicken costumes and frog costumes and Cookie Monster costumes that are really taking the piss out of the, ginning up of claiming our, cities are war zones. And so that has been something that's been quite effective. And hopefully we'll talk a bit about that. But Jim, where do you want to start?
Yeah, I just published an article on, generally speaking, what's going on, with Trump and, war zones, but in general, the sort of delusional thinking that is obviously going on. He's got all kinds of conditions which cause delusional thinking to start with. Age, dementia, stress, malignant narcissism under stress creates grandiose, delusional thinking. That is a primary symptom. And so we're seeing, a lot of it. But the delusions that just briefly, since I just wrote this article, delusions can be broken into two different types: primary delusions and secondary delusions. The primary delusion is one that you experience. It's a subjective experience. Okay. And then secondary delusions are designed to explain those. So, for example, if Stephen Miller shows you Portland on fire, right? Says, boss, Portland's on fire. Look at this video of Portland on fire. And by the way, 4,000 people died in Chicago just in the last little while. Can you believe that? Even though it's like the last, 20 years, something like that. And Trump gets these delusions in his head that the city is on fire, the whatever it is, and he welcomes them, he wants them, right? So it's a two-way street. But simplistically, the primary delusion is, oh my God, Portland's on fire. Now the secondary delusion is the conspiracy theory to explain it. And this isn't just Trump, right? This explains a lot about QAnon and other stuff as well, those kinds of beliefs. But you have this primary delusion about burning cities, and then your secondary delusion is, what's the conspiracy that explains it? Why is it that all of these different Democrat cities are all catching on fire and having all these riots and shit like that? Why is it always the Democrats? Well, it must be some secretive organization. Well, look, Stephen Miller just gave you an executive order about Antifa. Antifa is the secret. It's the secret sauce in between all of these different things, right? And so this now becomes a secondary delusion for Trump. And the way that this administration works, and this is part of the article too, is it's totalist. Robert J. Lifton described this as a totalist ideological system, where it is a completely sealed loop. No information is allowed from the outside. That's why all the press has been kicked out of his fucking, press conferences. You can't get a real press person in there because they ask questions that pierce the veil of this totalist system, right? So he gets all these delusions from his aides. So another example, Robert F. Kennedy says, you know what, boss? Look here, it says right here in the paper that in 1970, only 1 in 10,000 kids had autism, but now it's 1 in whatever. Well, what he doesn't say is that's because all of a sudden all the doctors know about it. That's all. Nothing changed. But Trump gets the delusion in his head because of that one piece of information that there's a giant autism epidemic. And in order to solve it, you have to find the mystery. You have to find the mystery artificial thing that caused this big balloon. And that's all secondary delusion having to do with the primary delusion, which is that there's a giant epidemic, which there is not. Nothing has changed. It's simply we understand more about it. It is grade school fallacy shit, but it's enough to send the entire vaccine science system completely off the rails. We have no visible vaccine protection in place at the moment because of this one delusion, because he put RFK Jr. there to give him delusions. Last thing on RFK, Trump has asked about RFK. He's asked, hey, a lot of even your own guys don't agree with RFK. And you know what he said? He said, I like that he's a little bit different. I like that he shakes things up. It's about the story, right? It's about the story. It's a better story that there's a secret out there that Donald Trump, can solve. And so what happens is all of these aides and all of these various people just feed in this shit. They feed in these delusions, and then he makes up the secondary delusions, the conspiracy theories behind it, which sometimes they feed him too. And all of a sudden, he's the savior. He's going to save you from Tylenol. He's going to save you from Antifa. He's going to save you from this and that. And so these delusions that he internalizes because of this totalist atmosphere, which is not just Donald Trump, it's all of them. You get people like Mike Johnson up there this morning. I mean, it was verbatim Goebbels. Crazy. It was like, at the march tomorrow will be the Marxists, the socialists, the far left. Like, it was like straight down the list of all the stuff that literally
they all got their points. They've all been reiterating it.
And it's all the same.
And
where does but the point is, where does that come from? It's a delusion. It's a delusion that's planted in Trump's head that then becomes a secondary delusion that he gets to solve. It becomes a grand conspiracy. So we are dealing with this demented fucking guy who's intentionally put himself, and with the cooperation of his people around him, put himself in this totalist bubble. Now this is the late stage shit. So the last example I will give here is how you could show the arch. I don't know if y'all have fucking seen this.
Arc de Triomphe.
But dude is going to put up an arch at the base of the Arlington Bridge. Now, the Arlington Bridge is a very, very symbolic thing, because it is the bridge, the literal bridge between the South and the North. That's where they were going, they were sending people over to fucking blow shit up and kill people, right? That's the dividing line. And so this dude gets up in his little speech, and he's going to build an arch, an Arc de Triomphe. So there's a specific kind of arch, a triumphal arch. And the Arc de Triomphe is Napoleon's. Hitler had one that he was going to build. He built a giant sort of test thing, obelisk, that I just learned about to test it out. It was going to be 4 times bigger than the Arc de Triomphe. And homeboy is going to put one right there. But while he's describing it, in one of the most just bonkers things that I've ever seen, and it goes right to this delusion thing, he said that what was going to be there was a giant statue of Robert E. Lee, Confederate, murdering, treasonous, fucking killed 100,000 people himself on both sides. It was going to be the symbol of reconciliation between the North and the South.
Wow.
And he said over and over again, I would have been okay with that. He kept saying it, like, I would have been okay with it. I would have been. And the reason for that is because symbolically, in his fucking demented head, he's been fed this idea that he is the new Lincoln. He is the bridge between the Confederates and the North. And Donald Trump, is going to represent the ultimate reconciliation of America between the fucking slaveholders and everybody else. And that right there, I think, just shows you the absolute kind of symbological, degradation of this guy's brain. Everything is now symbols. Everything is pictures. He's always been kind of like this. You had to show him a PowerPoint and not talk to him too much. But
give him a Sharpie.
But now it's like, here's a picture of fire. Okay, send the army, right? It's like
it's interesting. All of my studies of history, you kind of need that guy. And the other thing that I've been talking to our friend Alex Alvarova about, the other layer on that, because we were talking about Orban and Orban's history as a bad man for Russia, and how he's kind of the nexus. He's like the node of this organized crime network. So on top of all of this, you have what Alex calls, she's a disinformation analyst who grew up in Soviet ruled Czechoslovakia. She says all guys are like loyal servants to organized crime as well. So you have this guy, and they need that vertical power, right? So they can just feed him whatever they need to feed him, feed that ego, fluff that ego. That's what they do. We when we interviewed Melissa Jo Pelletier a long time ago, she had interviewed Trump, I guess, 20 years ago or in the 90s. And she said she'd never met a more insecure person in her life. Like we're talking like, Robert Mitchum described Marilyn Monroe as the most insecure person he'd ever met. She said it was like that level. Like if you just gave him anything, flattered him, he was just, completely just, over the moon. And so you need that kind of guy to be part of these loyal servants to organized crime. So it's so interesting because I can see how that works together clearly with what you're describing.
Yeah, well, Miller is a special cat in this whole thing, and in my view, right now, is basically running the United States. He, unlike anyone else, has managed to stay in Trump's good graces, and the way he does it is by being more transgressive and more dark and more evil than anybody else in his coterie.
Wow.
And there was a moment in the speech. I did a tweet about it, and it went like bonkers viral, like 2 million views or something, because it's fucking weird. Where Trump basically admits it. Shit, where was I going with that?
You're talking about Miller's the one who's most cruel and willing to like feed him all of that. And so each he gave
Trump was saying he's the one who keeps Miller on the leash. He doesn't let Miller really loose on America.
I think, is that the one where he also talked about Miller would be happy if there was just 100 million people in America? Or am I just imagining that? It was just like all kinds of gnarly.
No, hold on a second. I want to get it right. Yeah. So he doesn't want people to know what Miller actually thinks. The phrase I was looking for is the truest feeling. So Miller's there in the room, and he says, Stephen Miller, I really want to thank him for all of this, and we talk, and I'd love to have him come up here and tell you his truest feelings, but no, I don't think we want that, do we? And everybody's like, wow, man. It's like,
wow.
Like meaning that number one, it's obviously where he gets his ideas from. Number two, that there's a darker layer under this that Trump basically is saving us from, right? This is the message in this exchange where he's like, you don't want to know what this guy really wants to do to you, right? I am the only one saving you from it, but and if you're not good boys and girls, I won't, right? So he's both transferring the responsibility onto someone else and giving himself the power to use it, right? And that's why he likes Miller, is because Miller is always giving him an additional opportunity for power. Last example with Miller, I don't know if everyone saw it, but Miller froze up when he said the word plenary. He said plenary authority about being able to send the army into cities, which means the absolute authority to do anything the fuck he wants, including shoot people or whatever. It is this very special word. It means like, I'm a dictator, bitches. And that's what Stephen Miller said out loud. And it seemed to be by accident slipped out. And then he froze up to pretend like, the comm link broke or something. He knew that he was letting out something out there. But I think it's important to understand that, that's where they're going with this. He wants a junta. If you don't know what a junta is, it's a military dictatorship where everybody is basically told what to do by dudes with guns. So, anyway.
Yeah. Wow.
Coming soon to a city near you.
Hi, Flo, do you have anything you want to say? I have an interesting thing that I just learned that I wanted to share with you guys. Miller's family, of course, his his family, who is Jewish, are horrified, of course, at what he is and what he's become and what he's doing, and have denounced him much in the same way that Robert Kennedy Jr.'s family has denounced him. And I just learned historically that if you were Jewish and useful to the Nazis, you could literally get a hall pass from Hitler that would suggest that your German blood, was stronger than your Jewish blood. And if they found you useful, and I found that interesting because I didn't know that. I never understood how some people who were Jewish would actually work with the Nazis. And I guess that if you did and you were useful and Hitler liked you, or his colleagues did, that you could actually continue to work with them. And it's very confusing to a lot of people when they see somebody who is that racist, that much of a supremacist in every way, who actually has a history, coming from a race of people who've been so oppressed. And but again, once again, nothing new under the sun. These people are
Well,
not.
he's got a special brand of racism. So I wrote something about this. He was infatuated with the Camp of the Saints, which is an eliminationist 1973 book that's a slightly more intellectual Turner Diaries, slightly. That's just all about this like racistly described horde of people who land in France. They're all Indians and just dark people, and they basically come into Europe, collapse France, collapse Europe, and Western civilization goes under because of this one sort of refugee flood. And it's awful. It's like disgraceful in every conceivable way. And Miller was infatuated. So is Steve Bannon and a bunch of these guys. They passed it around. And what it does is it sort of skips over the Jews. It's Nazi and awful and xenophobic in every possible way, but it kind of, in a similar way, gives Jewish people a pass. And so for whatever reason, there's a kind of scene of this shit out there. His main propaganda mentor was David Horowitz, who was a Jewish guy who, was hard right wing, hard anti-immigrant, hard, who was the one who encouraged Stephen Miller to treat politics not as politics, but as war. War. Literal, actual, no, he meant it like, I want to hurt you.
Yeah.
I want you to hurt people as much as you can within legal bounds, but only legal bounds because otherwise you get in trouble, right? Like it was like that. He just didn't give a shit and wanted, one of the most extreme commentators out there. And he's the guy who picked up Stephen Miller when Miller was 16 years old.
Yeah.
Right. Miller like was calling in on his phone like to radio stations and shit and being a little Nazi. Yeah. David Horowitz heard him on the radio or something. He was like, I want to meet that little Nazi. Yeah. And got in touch or something through his high school. And like, that was a relationship that sort of, turned him into what he's always been, which is, Jewish Nazi. That's just what he is.
Who also viewed politics more? That's Hitler. I mean, again, I'm reading these history books because
you're breaking up.
Possible. Oh, I just said that, who also viewed politics as war, of course, is Adolf Hitler. I'm reading all these books from Richard J. Evans that really delves into the network of people that he associated with. And again, chilling stuff.
So, yeah, I listen, when it comes to Jewish Nazis, something you have to understand is there were also homosexual Nazis, there were pedophile Nazis, there were black Nazis.
We don't need the know what you're saying. We don't need to
It,
sort
basically,
it's a state of mind.
the labels only apply when they're useful. All
Mhm.
right. When they're useful to persecute, you use them. When they are not useful, and that individual of whatever category is useful to the machine, the system that's being put in place, it's they walk, right?
I find it fascinating that there's all of these GOP apologists who are apologizing and saying what a horrible thing it is when the Politico leaked the young Republicans' chats, which were virulently racist, virulently anti-Semitic, as you know, as gross as anything as you got, bring up with Telegram chats, etc., with neo-Nazis. And yet it's so interesting because so many of the, same suggested ideas were spouted by the martyr that everybody's supposed to worship. So it just, to me, everything is transactional, everything has utility. There's nothing ideological about a lot of this. It's just what is convenient to the party and to mobilize people toward the party. You know what I'm talking about without talking about it, Jim. I can see by the look on your face.
Well, yeah, I mean, they were literally getting that hundreds of educators were fired from their jobs for saying stuff about fucking Charlie Kirk, right? And and JD Vance gets up there, asked about these text messages from people in the party, in the Republican Party proper, not like just Republicans, who
Yeah.
were between the ages of 24 and 35.
Yeah.
and JD Vance's response is, kids,
Yeah.
especially young boys, say things that we don't approve of sometimes. And I'm sitting here, and like 2 tweets over, he's like, the lieutenant governor of Virginia said something mean to a friend in a tweet because of a lawsuit that we found out about, right? Like, who hasn't said shit to their friends that they would never fucking say in a giant chat room with 150 other Republicans? There's such a huge difference here, first, between the rhetoric, which, like, this rhetoric was somebody who's mad at a particular person and went over the top in a private conversation. These other things were eliminationist. Like, anyone who votes no should be in a gas chamber. Like, shit like this. and they're on the one side, these are just kids. On the other side, one of the young boys that JD Vance was talking about. JD Vance,
Mute hi-fi. If you're going to type, mute hi-fi.
Yeah, ding dong.
Hi-fi. Boomer. He's the youngest one. He's the boomer.
41.
Stoner.
41.
Yeah. Not hi-fi.
No, and this fucking asshole Julie, not Julia, 35 years old. He's talking about ooh,
Peer group.
It's the same. Anyway.
Yeah.
Like, we're way past hypocrisy or any of that. It's just theater. And they fucking know it. We know it. They know it. I described it the other day as we're in the, they don't care if we know that they know that we know, right? They just don't give a shit anymore. Like, and they're gonna keep saying it. They're gonna keep saying this stuff, but that.
Jim, I laughed for frickin', I don't know, 24 hours straight when you quote tweeted some ding dong thing that Kash Patel wrote, and then you wrote, "See you in court, stupid." And it was after Hegseth did something about we're gonna do this, something for dummies, and you're like, you're the dummy. I mean, it was so like freaking like sixth grade, but I was still like, see you in court, stupid. I just laughed.
Well, that's the only thing I feel like gets through to that
Well, so
absolute,
I wrote about how
absolute thing.
fight this autocratic contagion in a couple of ways. And one of the ways, and this is a, true historical example from the last few years, Byline Times ran with a story called Partygate. It was Boris Johnson and his, ilk thumbing their nose during COVID and still doing whatever they wanted to do while everybody else was watching, their parents die from a distance. And they kept going after that story, and it broke Boris Johnson's career. And right now, as you guys know, Carol Cadwalader and Peter Jukes, Byline, and now Carol and her crew from Guardian at the Nerve, they are front paging all the time this Nathan Gill story, this Reform UK leader from Wales who, just pled guilty to 8 counts of Russian linked bribery, doing a bunch of Russian shit as an MP. And it connects directly to Farage, and it's all the same talking points they all use. And the stink is getting on Farage, but it was still kind of loitering in social media, but they have continued and continued to push the story. And just like with Partygate, I think it actually may, make its way. It will finally force, oligarch media to have to do something about it. And it might actually present a huge challenge to Farage. So I'm pretty freaking excited about that. But the other thing, I see your finger, but I'm not finished, Hi-Fi. So just write a note so you can remember the thought. I'm almost done. The
Put
other
ink
thing,
on your finger and then
the other thing that we know from history, we know from what we're seeing right now in real time is that mockery and ridicule, satire works. And again, when you see Benny Johnson's video of Kristi Noem, in the war zone in Portland, and there's nothing but 8 reporters, 5 hackers, and a guy in a chicken suit. Like, to me,
I love
that
that guy.
that's when, Jack Dickinson, man, give him a medal. He's 26 years old, a math major and econ. He has a degree in a graduate degree in economics. Anyway, but
Legend.
he feels that's a way of winning, because you can't, like, what are they going to do? Like, what are they going to do? They're going to like say that's a war zone? No, it's not. A bunch of people riding their bikes naked through the streets. So just saying, and we know, I bring this up like every couple months, at the end of his life, Napoleon Bonaparte said he lost to a cartoonist. The cartoonist's name was James Gilroy. He eviscerated him at every turn, made him seem shorter than he was. He was actually an average height guy, but all the memes that he did, that this cartoonist, a British cartoonist, did, really stuck. And those things are still, what we think of Napoleon today. And so, again, the power of continually, as independent members of the media, front paging this shit and also ridicule, I think, could actually be super effective while we are still breathing some free air. It may not last forever, so seize the day.
Carpe diem.
Okay, I just got to say something real quick.
Yeah, that finger.
Nigel Farage is a goddamn liar. Okay?
Yeah, right.
Nigel Farage goes on a podcast and talks about how I think we should shoot down Russian drones and Russian planes in NATO airspace and blah, 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 blah. And he says all these like, I'm tough on Russia. But at the end, he says 2 things, right? He says, Russia's aggression is NATO's fault and some
Yeah.
other bullshit about Ukraine. And
So
look, Nigel Farage is a goddamn liar. Don't believe a thing he says.
actually,
Ever.
he did write a guest op-ed in Betty Dangerous, my Substack today, which I invite you to read, where he links immigrants to climate change. It's quite fabulous. Of course, it's satire, but it's so over the top. And I believe that he not only graduated from Kremlin Charm School, but I think he graduated with honors. He's a superb propagandist. and also was paid to be on RT many times before the
Which of our guests was it who told us that it was Silvio Berlusconi who taught Putin how to be charming?
Oh, Monique Camara.
Well, there
She,
you go. So it's not the
she,
KGB's charm school; it's Italy's, and Italy
she,
are fashionable.
no. It's the Kremlin charm school. It's an old Jean-Luc Carré phrase, I think, or Russian charm school. No, Berlusconi got Putin out of his Gopnik suits and into like Italian suits, etc., etc. Yeah,
Uh-oh.
again, servants to organized crime. Hey, so what is uh-oh? We
You froze on me, but I don't know if it goes for
Oh
Wi-Fi.
yeah, no, it's just gamey as usual. High Fidelity. We interviewed Jen Stout. She is an award-winning author and war correspondent, and she knows Scotland. And as a young girl, she dreamed of following in the footsteps of some of the women war correspondents, and then she did. She went to Ukraine and she did a rad book called Night Train to Odessa, which if you don't have it, you haven't read it, please do. It's beautiful, really important. And we're going to start seeing some clips from our interview with her. She's awesome. I got to meet her in person at the Byline Festival in 2024.
I never want to set foot in Moscow again, to be honest. And when the full-scale invasion started, February 24th, 2022, I was in Siberia, which was also unfortunate because it was a very long way from everywhere. And we just landed actually in Gorno-Altaysk to go on this kind of program trip together, which I hadn't thought was a hugely good idea. And it was literally like that morning that we landed on the plane, getting off the overnight plane from Moscow, it's like 9 hours because the place is enormous, right? And I remember like so vividly coming out of the plane, and it's surrounded by like mountains and snow, and there's this tiny little airport in Gorno-Altaysk, and I turned my phone on. And we'd had a kind of trepidation, a feeling that there was something going to happen. I mean, everyone did, right? But I at least was very naive, and I didn't think there would be a full-scale invasion. I thought they would invade further into Donbass. More fool me. So I turned on my phone, and it was my friends in Ukraine saying, Jen, they're bombing us with warplanes. And I just stood there for a second, kind of frozen to the spot, thinking, what? It just took me a minute to actually understand what this meant. And then I really wanted to leave Russia as soon as possible. It took us a few days. And then I was very thankfully out via Istanbul. I went to Vienna to see a Ukrainian friend. Actually saw Serhii Ploki by chance. He was giving a talk at the IWM that night. And then I went to Romania and reported on the border for a bit, and then into Ukraine. And it's been probably the greatest pleasure of my life to be covering the war in Ukraine for the last few years on and off.
Please watch her interview in its entirety. It's episode 150. It's so incredible. And just like Peter Pomerantsev gave us a real glimpse into what Russia was like in the, in the aughts. She was in Moscow in the, 2021 period, 22 period, I think. And she gives you a really good view of the paranoia that is there and the denial and the expat community just living there in denial about reality and how everything is basically just, ordering your food to go and have it be delivered. And it's an incredible component of that interview. Let's see another clip from her.
Our audience understands that the war in Ukraine is part of a greater world war. What would you tell our audience to help them get their friends and family to understand the urgency of defeating Russia and Vladimir Putin and saving as many Ukrainian civilians as possible?
I mean, there are various arguments. I remember someone in Romania putting it very well when I said, "Why are you putting up all these refugees in your house?" And she said, "Well, it could be us. It could be us." And I know that people across the sea, same in the UK, feel like we're isolated, we're insulated from these kind of threats rather than Eastern Europe. I mean, there's an argument of basic solidarity and peace in the world. But really, it's about any semblance of an international order of the rule of law, actually. And we can be cynical about that. We can all be, lots of people are cynical about, for instance, US and British foreign policy in the last sort of 20, 30 years. Fine. I agree with them. But this is actually quite simple and quite terrifying, what's happening in Europe now, and it won't remain in Ukraine, it won't remain in Eastern Europe. So it involves all of us.
Word.
It involves all of us is really, I mean, we were just talking about this in chat, you know, like Jen said, the scale of all of this is unreal. And I just, no, it's not. This is World War III. This is like the precursor to kinetic action if we get there. If more people realize that this is the precursor, then maybe they'd realize what's been being done, utilizing technology. And in Ukraine, in Gaza, it's all kinetic now. So I guess that's what's coming next. I hope not.
I mean, you just gotta look at cities right now and a bunch of fucking. I mean, we have a huge, increasing problem with crime, which is a bunch of paramilitary thugs are rolling into neighborhoods and cities and Home Depots all over the fucking country and committing acts of wanton violence.
Yeah.
Hold on, high five with the finger. Seriously, bro. I get it, but what, you know,
Write in notes so you don't forget it. Write down keywords.
I'll type it in chat.
No, don't do that. The violence is in front of us, and what they are trying to do is portray a violent country. So they're creating violence and intentionally provoking, you know, anybody that they possibly can. And then they're out here on TV all day long provoking violence against a protest.
Yeah.
That you can't put what they're doing any other way. When you're calling a whole group of people terrorists and Marxists and socialists and whatever bullshit you want to, and pro-Hamas. Yeah, we're all in favor of terrorism now, guys. That's it. Because we don't like fucking tariffs and all this ridiculous bullshit that this.
They're the terrorists. They're the terrorists. They're projecting.
Of course.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's quite a
switcheroo, man. So we talked
Okay.
about this last week, but it is really important. Sorry, high five. I forgot that your finger had been up, but I just want to get this thought out because I don't want to take notes on it. We talked about it this last week about how Antifa is a phantom conjured to defang the word passion. They can go after their political opponents, and I am now very much putting just everything for me in two buckets. You've got those creating the illusion and then reality, and knowing who the illusionists are, who the conjurers are, is very helpful. And this regime is illegitimate. They are doing illegal acts, one right after the other. You only have to read the letter from the lieutenant colonel who just resigned, read his words on why he resigned. And I'm sure Jim has some thoughts about that and what he has to say, because he sums it up very beautifully for America. Okay, High Fidelity, your turn.
So I'm going back to the chat. And what I said was, with regards to the National Guard and violence being perpetrated, can anyone in the chat remind me when is the last time some states invaded other states? Because I kind of remember that being bad.
That's bad.
And then it's funny.
Well,
it's funny you're talking about. Hold on, Jim. And
I was going to answer your question though.
All right. Well, take a note. And the second question is, they're out there. They're out there organizing violence against the protesters. And I would like to remind everyone of one of the things that got us here, and that was the Unite the Right protests down in Charlottesville.
Oh, yeah.
And how did that end? So what you're seeing right now is just a greater scope. You know, that last time it was Charlottesville. Now it's these protests all over the country. You don't think there's going to be some Trump cultists who are going to go start some shit? I just want everyone to be on high alert. Anyway, go back to the first question.
We don't want to alarm anyone, but of course, anyone who goes to these things knows that there's potential, targeting. But guess what? That's how it works. Unfortunately,
Right.
when you allow your country to be taken over by a fascist government, then suddenly life becomes much riskier.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and this is not yelling at anybody who's listening to us now, but at the world, right? As we've been saying, it doesn't get easier, right? Yeah. If you're afraid to speak up now, just wait, because it doesn't get easier. And it's not going to get easier after this, right? They're going to find a way to make this what they always said it was. But just briefly to answer your question, Hi-Fi, the last time that happened was fucking Civil War, when Abraham Lincoln decided to basically suspend the rule of law, suspended habeas corpus, which is something that these guys are talking about doing right now. Did the insurrect, all that stuff, and that's why when Trump is thinking about himself as the bridge between the North and the South, and he's going to be, the new Lincoln, right? Like, this shit matters, and like, why focus on this stuff? Because you can see it, that it's dangerous, because it is a never-ending spiral. It has to be interrupted.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I keep feeling is that he's in late stage authoritarianism, and we're not, the country isn't at all. We're not Weimar. We're not. I mean, in January, there was a big article about how we're the envy of the world. It was this year. This year, we still had sort of democracy, although we could all feel it, right? It was only this year. So I feel still that they're just, they're going at this mad, crazy pace. Why? Because of the goddamn fucking Epstein files. It keeps coming down to that. Why is Mike Johnson the guy who's calling people protesting Antifa or whatever? Why is he forced his entire caucus to stay away from the building that they work for the last fucking month? Why? Because it doesn't want. Why won't he sign, like, swear in somebody who's, first it was because it wasn't official, now it's official, and now he's just like something. He's just something or other. He doesn't have any answers anymore, and so he's just not.
Yeah.
And so, all of this kind of the Pentagon, just last, anybody didn't see, the Pentagon's entire press crew is OAN, like the Korean, like a Korean blog, like, so, like the Indian Times, I don't know, some shit like that. And
hold on, the candidate for mayor in Cincinnati, JD Vance's brother, Corey Bowman,
oh my God,
was very proud of an excellent review he received in the Epoch Times. Just share that.
You know who used to be on the payroll for the Epoch Times, which is nothing but propaganda trash, hot trash, Kash Patel. And then they found out, of course, that, there was all this embezzling going on there. Such nice people. The good news is
he more than that. I mean, he had a whole fucking channel on the Epoch Times. He had a whole page voted to the cash show and shit.
Oh,
He didn't
man.
do it much, I don't think, but he pretended that he was going to be a big Epoch star on the Epoch. On if you don't know, it's a cult.
Yeah.
The Epoch Times is a cult. It is the Falun
Yeah.
Gong cult, and specifically, which portrays itself, especially in its dance performances, as some kind of beautiful traditional Chinese thing, and it's probably got those components, but it's also a fascist cult with the cult leader and all the weird shit that goes along with being in a cult, where you have to go through all kinds of horrible things and you chant all the time and you're in a goddamn cult, and
Yeah.
everybody who works over there is in that cult, and it is an anti-communist cult. That's
They
important.
sure like them some Trump.
Well, they
So-
love them some Trump, but their
Yeah.
main thing is they're anti-communist, so they don't like the CCP and stuff. But it's why Flynn and all these guys loves them some Epoch Times, because they have that connection. They hate the commies together, and so that's
Teaching
why
other
he
people.
takes their money. And in the
So they're-
meantime, they're one of the biggest things, and YouTube is poisoning people and taking their money all the time.
Screw them too.
Yeah.
So the good news is there has been a run on chicken suits, so there should be a lot of cartoon characters out there tomorrow. So Jen Stout, we talked about this after our interview, but she said something really interesting about people who have the kind of go down these rabbit holes of conspiracy. She said some of them, that she said she thinks they like it. Like they like conspiracy, they actually like it. And here we are, we've been doing it for 4 years, and we're trying to encourage people not to just say, well, I got it on the internet and make that the end, like we are fighting for truth, and to think that there is, a faction of people who just don't care about truth. They just want to be entertained is just a bit shit, really. Anyway, let's see some more clips from Jen, unless you go on that.
I mean, we all know this by now, but it's that strange thing of like the front line is everywhere in Ukraine, but it's also because Russia strikes cities with impunity, but it's also sometimes nowhere. It's sometimes not there because there's so much normality, there's so much normal life, because there are so many people there, and they just get on with things. So I was indecently happy to be in Odessa. I mean, I was just so delighted. I dreamed for years and years. I would sit in Shetland up in the north in Scotland when my mum was ill. I was up there for quite a long time, and it gets pretty grim in the winter. Like imagine bleak landscape, lots of bog, several sheep, and I'm sitting there thinking, what am I doing? Like I'm 23, this sucks. And I would go on like the early version of Google Street View and just try and, it would load like this slowly, right? And walk through the streets of two cities, Odessa and New York City, and think, well, maybe one day I'll get to see one of them. So when I did get to Odessa, I was just so happy, and there was so much going on. There was this real feeling of solidarity, of like collective effort, and people being really involved in this huge collective fight. Which they were kind of shocked that they were managing it at that point, and so was the rest of the world, right? No one really thought Ukraine could at that time. So then I went to Kharkiv, and then from then on, I hung around. And I did a very kind of from the ground reporting where I didn't really have a fixer or a translator, or because I didn't really need one, or driver or anything. So I'd kind of get lifts with people and get lots of trains, and it's just me and my rucksack and my pals. And that meant that I got to have a lot of long conversations with people that helped me understand a lot of the context and the history. And I could put all of that into a book in the end.
Yeah, man. Night Train to Odessa, covering the human cost of Russia's war. That is Jen Stout. Let's see the final clip from her.
I believe in that there's going to be a reckoning, there's going to be a tribunal, there's going to be war crimes prosecutions, because the prospect of all of the people that I know having worked so hard for so many years to gather all that evidence in the belief that internationally surely there would be some form of justice at the end of it. Like Victoria Amelina, when she was a war crimes researcher, and instead of writing her beautiful poetry and living her life, she was gathering these testimonies endlessly, and then of course Russia killed her as well. I have to believe that there will be some form of justice, and I have to believe, of course, that the truth will out and it will be recognized as such, because otherwise, what would be the point in everything that we do? I find that my optimism increases when I can get back to Ukraine. Maybe optimism is the wrong word. It's good for I enjoy being in a place where everything matters and people understand how you have to fight for democracy and you have to fight for these things that we took for granted for so long. And where people are, I think, more savvy about news and disinformation, whereas here in the UK, in Scotland, a lot of people are being taken in by a lot of rubbish about this war, and it pains me a great deal.
Here too.
God, we have so much fucking rubbish.
Yeah. Yeah.
The rubbish in the White House who was like with Zelensky. I only saw a few like quotes and I was just like, oh God, I don't even want to go like it's such a painfully this is another example of this delusion. Whenever Trump talks to Putin fucking deludes him. He puts ideas in Trump's head that Trump can't that work. And that's the problem, is he's so fucking easy to psyop. Everybody can do it. And so he's got all these contradictory fucking things going on in his head at the same time, directing him. And he just doesn't give a shit anymore. His calculation is, well, is it better than the Epstein files? Okay, let's go. And everything is better than the Epstein files. Venezuela, Prince, you want me to invade fucking Maduro and take his oil? Great, let's fucking do that too. Which is, something.
I know.
You would have known.
I
Watch
saw it.
Ron
There
Pot
he
of
is.
the girl for the last 3 months.
So let's go invade. Let's go steal other people's shit, So, yeah.
I mean, like he's got the CIA down there. They're shooting the fucking boats. He's like they're totally they're telling Maduro you're gonna get overthrown.
Yeah.
They're telling the people around Maduro you better overthrow him because we're coming in. Yeah. I mean, it's pathetic. It's like all the bad shit we did that Reagan did in the 80s, but in the open. He's just like, fuck it. Like, I'm going to tell you that there's CIA covert ops instead of waiting for 25 years after trying not to tell anyone. Like, that's how they used to run covert ops, meaning nobody knew what they were fucking doing. And now Trump's like, okay, we got them in this forest over here, and you better watch out, FAFO. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, now it's overt, right? It's not. There's nothing covert about any.
Well, that's the point.
Overt.
And like when you tell somebody there's covert operations going on, it's not like it can't be fucking covert anymore. You idiot.
Or it's all in a chat, where it becomes public because there are reporters in there. It's like the worst people. It's too bad it's not funny though, because they're just cruel sociopaths too. So that's
but it's also there is a layer at which it's funny, which with South Park hits. By the way, I haven't seen the whole thing, but there is a scene in the new South Park where Peter Thiel does say,
"Oh hi, thanks for checking in. I'm still a piece of garbage."
Well,
the Antichrist expert does a excommunication abortion on Stan.
Oh God! Isn't it build the Antichrist and the Jim again? It's so bizarre. Oh my God! Okay, that's our hour. What do you guys want to end this with?
We had to end on the Antichrist abortion line.
Oh my God! Jeez.
Sorry.
Okay. The Catholic schoolgirl in me is horrified.
I know. Well,
So,
that's why it's so beautiful. It's so
uh,
beautiful. Those words, they just go together.
yeah, it's just so gnarly. High fidelity, big thoughts, or a big cliff, or some sort of a nice outro. What you got for us?
I guess the big thought I've had tonight is people they need to pull back from what they find themselves caught in and take a look not just at the National Guard in our cities, not just at the orange Russian asset in our White House or the traitors in our Congress or our our Leonard Leo compromised Supreme Court. No, let's look at all the countries around the world that have fallen prey to
Mm,
Putin. And we know Lithuania, Moldova, Estonia, Georgia, the list goes on. Germany, France, obviously the UK.
yeah,
We know, yeah, and it's
yeah,
pull back. Look at the globe as like a playing board,
yeah,
and look at all the countries that have fallen. And we're at the point we need an American Maidan, right? And
yeah. True.
I don't know. I want to leave on an interesting note because there's some young fellows out there on YouTube called the Brothers in Black, and they do Johnny Cash, and there's one Johnny Cash song I think everyone should know.
Wonderful.
2, 1.
Well, you wonder why I always dress in black, why you never see bright colors on my pack, and why does my appearance seem to have a somber tone? Well, there's a reason for the things that I have on. I wear the black for the poor and the beaten down, living in the hopeless, hungry side of town. I wear it for the prisoner who has long paid for his crime, but is there because he's a victim of the times. I wear the black for those who've never read nor listened to the words that Jesus said about the road to happiness through love and charity. Why, you think he's talking straight to you and me? Well, we're doing mighty fine, I do suppose, in our street of lightning cars and fancy clothes. But just so we're reminded of the ones who are held back, up front there ought to be a man in black. I wear it for the sick and lonely old, for the reckless ones whose bad trip left them cold. I wear the black in mourning for the lives that could have been. Each week we lose 100 fine young men. And I wear it for the thousands who have died, believing that the Lord was on their side. I wear it for another 100,000 who have died, believing that we all were on their side. Well, there's things that never will be right, I know. Things need changing everywhere you go. But till we start to make a move to make a few things right, you'll never see me wear a suit of white. Oh, I'd love to wear a rainbow every day and tell the world that everything's okay. But I'll try to carry off a little darkness off my back till things are brighter. I'm the man in black.